We're here with Ambassador John R. Bolton. Hi, Ambassador. How are you?
Fine. Glad to be here.
You're the ambassador to the United Nations?
Used to be the ambassador to the United Nations.
Used to be. Okay. All right. Well, actually, we just filmed for the equinox, the peace bell ringing on last Friday over at the United Nations, and we just put a United Nations story up today.
I see. That's interesting.
Very involved. So, what do you think about the United Nations?
Well, I think it's an organization obviously founded with very high aspirations that over the years has unfortunately not met those aspirations on too many occasions. It's been a source of anti-American feeling, anti-Israel feeling. And so it remains a central locus of many people's hopes, but in terms of its actual operation, it's been a disappointment, I think, to many people.
Okay, all righty. Are we talking, in essence, then right now about some things that are happening here, like tonight, good news, positive things happening?
Well, I think it's a time of great challenge in the world, but that's obviously an opportunity for people to demonstrate their strengths, their real tenacity and determination to keep their societies free, and I think that's very important.
Okay. You're being honored this evening. Congratulations to
Thank
you.
you. Thank you. It's
by
a great
the Open
honor.
University. Have you been to Israel?
Oh, yes, many times.
All right. And what's your feeling in that regard?
Well, I think Israel is a close ally of the United States and a representative of what democracy in the Middle East can be. And so in that respect, I think it's a real example to much of the rest of the region.
And Open University concept?
Well, I think that's very important, too, to give people a chance who are occupied with their daily jobs to get a bachelor's degree or even an advanced degree in a flexible kind of way. And I suspect this is really a reflection of how much education around the world will be conducted on into the future.
What are you working on now in your life?
Well, I'm practicing law, and I'm also at the American Enterprise Institute, which is a think tank in Washington, D.C.
Okay. Do we have some good thoughts coming out of there?
Well, there are a lot of the scholars who are there who are doing very important policy research on domestic and international affairs. It's a great place to be. I've been associated with it in one form or another for many years, and it's a great privilege to be there.
During this period of economic turbulence, we especially appreciate your financial support and your moral commitment. 2.5 years ago, Erwin Hochberg, then chairman of the American Friends of the Open University of Israel, invited a troika consisting of Robert de Rothschild, Inga Rennert, and me, Malcolm Thompson, to assume the leadership of the American Friends. Erwin promised us his complete support and gave us 3 envelopes. The financial conditions, he said, are certainly a crisis. And when you run into problems, I want you to open the first envelope. The message reads, blame the previous chairman. I couldn't and wouldn't blame Erwin. He's a friend. We've worked together in business and on causes for 30 years. So Inga and I opened the second envelope. And it said, blame an indolent and inactive board. Inga and I carefully have selected each member of the board. They're dedicated, they're hardworking, they're stalwart, and they're the future of the American Friends of the Open University of Israel. So we opened the third envelope, and it says, prepare 3 envelopes. Now I ask you, why should a group of talented individuals with so many demands on their time and for their money, with so many other boards seeking their talent, commit themselves to serving so hard and contributing so much to this cause? The answer comes from a story from the art collector Joe Hirschhorn. Joe was a mentor and a congregant, and he told me a fascinating story. He had just purchased one of the late Renoir, and he was showing it to a group of friends. Renoir suffered from rheumatism in his hands during the latter years of his life. He painted by being placed in a chair and telling people how to move the chair as he directed. As his condition worsened, Renoir's gnarled fingers could no longer hold the brush. His students took leather straps and bound the brushes to his hands and arms. And as he applied the paint to the canvas, suffering intensely, perspiration covered his brow, he persisted to paint despite the torment. His disciple Henri Matisse pleaded, "Why torture yourself to do more? You're already an established master." Gazing at a canvas, Renoir responded, "The pain passes, but the beauty endures." The answer to why we, the board, and why you are here tonight is that there's hard work, but the beauty, the success, the achievement will endure. In Israel today, 1/3 of the population lives below the poverty line. Another third cannot afford a university education. A member of our board, Elaine Wolfenson, showed me the statistics that in Israel, they rank in the bottom quartile of OECD nations in education. Education is the liberation of the mind from the slavery of ignorance. That's why it's important that you join us and you join with our board in providing scholarships. We must also liberate the minds of an Arab minority being spoon-fed bigotry and hatred. And the Open University is engaged in a program of education to Arab students. Education is the liberation of the Israeli from a life of indigence and poverty. Education is the most vital challenge to the military and economic survival of Israel. We need an educated population to produce the military superiority and technology. Education enables. Education empowers. Education is the exodus of our day. And that's why the beauty endures. Many of you will look at the picture on the back of our program. It's the logo and symbol of the Open University. And it actually is taken, these 3 circles, from a minaret in a mosque as you enter the old city of Jaffa. It's a window. The window is open to the future, and the future is now. It is education. Thank you.
I'm Ben Tandowski. This is an honor. Yigal Allon, statesman, warrior, philosopher, acting prime minister. Allon, serving as Minister of Education and Deputy Prime Minister, along with Baroness Dorothy de Rothschild, was the visionary behind the establishment of the Open University of Israel. In 1931, at the age of 23, he joined the Haganah, the pre-state IDF. General Allon was the founding member of the Palmach and rose to become Commander-in-Chief. He retired to the military to become a member of the Knesset. His distinguished career included serving as interim Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of Labor, Minister of Education and Culture, and Minister of Foreign Affairs. Allon, like our honoree this evening, Chancellor Joel Klein, was a visionary and a man of courage. Allon understood that the future of Israel depended on a highly educated population. Therefore, the necessity for a program to educate a diverse population spread throughout the land. Israel's technological superiority, economic survival, and military development depend on a highly skilled and educated population. The challenge is not much different than that facing Chancellor Klein. Under Chancellor Klein, the city school system has continued to improve dramatically. Most recently, it was noticed by the state that an additional 10% of the schools have moved into category A or B, which is quite a report card.
Rimonim, or pomegranates, have a unique significance in Jewish tradition. The rimon, though I have never counted, in rabbinic lore has 613 seeds, corresponding to the number of mitzvot, of commandments in the Torah. The rimon, the pomegranate, is referenced in the rabbinic literature as a symbol of knowledge and learning. In the ancient Temple of Jerusalem, the rimon decorated the pillars of righteousness and justice, Yachin and Boaz, a reminder of the role and obligation of people in society. This symbolism is still carried on in the synagogue, where rimonim decorate the staves of the Torah. What a fitting tribute the rimonim are for you, Chancellor Klein. Chancellor Klein, yours is a career dedicated to justice, to righteousness, to education, and to values. I ask you to please come forward to receive the 2009 Yigal Alon Award.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Noam. And thank you, the Open University of Israel. This is a very special award for me tonight, and I'm enormously grateful. I first want to say a word about your other honoree, John Bolton. I want to thank him for his service to this nation, indeed. Let me give you one clue about public service. People say John Bolton was a controversial public servant. And I would say, in the absence of controversy, we are never going to get the change in this nation or this world that we need. So admire those who are willing to challenge orthodoxy, to seek a new path, and to fight for those things that are right in the world. Malcolm, your comments were so appropriate and so important, and they mesh with why this is such an emotional event for me. Because two things come together in the Open University of Israel. First, an extraordinary commitment to education as a way to liberate the mind from ignorance, as Malcolm put it. But second, in a country, Israel, that means so much, not just to all of us, but I think to the future of this world and what is right in a very chaotic global environment. So when those two things come together, and having just yesterday met for the first time the new mayor of Jerusalem, there's a lot that really is bubbling up in me. And my staff wrote, "You're only allowed to talk for a brief time." And they capitalized brief to make sure I got the message. So what I want to say is actually that if you think about what we're going through now in the U.S. and globally, and our economics, and how people view that as a crisis, let me assure you, America will get through this economic crisis. We have in the past, we will this time. The question I want to raise is, will America ever get right on education? Today in America, your zip code, your skin color, poverty, those things too often are outcome determinative of the quality of an education. And for far too long, we in America, friends of mine, have made excuses about why the schools do not get the results that are absolutely necessary. And for me, it comes down to one single way to view the problem. From the day I took this job as chancellor 7 years ago till today, so many people have said, "Chancellor, we will never fix education in America until we fix poverty in America." And those people have it exactly backwards. We will never fix poverty in America or any place else until we fix education. It's long past time to continue the excuse making, to look at the family and the poverty and all the other issues. So many of us rose from poverty through education to the most remarkable opportunity in the world. I know my father never made it out of high school because of the Great Depression. I went to high school living on the first floor of public housing in Queens. And the way I see it, teachers at Bryan High School allowed me to stand on their shoulders to see a world I never could have seen from the first floor of public housing. That's why the work of the Open University is so important and why this award means so very much to me. Thank you for being here, and thank you for supporting education. It is a game changer in human beings' lives.
ברצוני לפתוח בברכת ברוכה הבאה לנשיאה החדשה של האוניברסיטה הפתוחה. Dr. Hagit Messer-Yaron, the new president of the Open University, is an internationally acclaimed expert in statistical processing with application to source localization and communication and environmental systems. She's a fellow of the Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers, the world's foremost professional association for the advancement of technology. Professor Messer-Yaron has served as the Vice President for Research and Development at Tel Aviv University. Her commitment to the advancement of women in science and technology is well documented. Her book, published in 2008, is Capitalism and the Ivory Tower. She has authored numerous scientific papers, including pioneering publication in Science titled Environmental Monitoring by Wireless Communication Networks.
It is with pride and pleasure that we welcome and greet you, Professor Messer-Yaron. We look forward to your active involvement in the affairs of the American Friends. Won't you please come forward?
Wow, I'm excited. Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador Walton, Chancellor Klein, Mr. and Mrs. Reinhardt. Actually, I preferred few words, but I'm going to speak freely. Malcolm, you didn't like to speak for me, so I'll do it offhand. And I'm only giving 3 minutes, and I donated half a minute to Ina because she wanted another half. So I'll make it short. I started my capacity as the president of the Open University less than 6 months ago, on October 1st, and I moved into the Open University because I believe in its mission. I wanted to tell you about the Open University, but apparently you know about it, that's why you are here. I'm still learning. It's a different institution, it's a different education, higher education institution, different from what I knew all my life, and it's very special. And if you want to know more, again, you can read about it. The one thing I didn't know is that the Open University, which I visited in Israel, and as you know, we have study centers all over Israel. We have more than 50 study centers. It has also a very important component in New York. I learned about it yesterday and the day before yesterday, and I found here with you, the American friend of the Open University of Israel, a home away from home. I thank you for it. I thank you for being our partners. I thank you for doing all, for believing in us. We did a lot, and we have a lot to do for the society in Israel, for the Jewish people all over the world. I think that our technology, the internet, our excellent courses is a very good infrastructure that can be used for education, not only in Israel, not only in Russia, in the program we started a few years ago, but for Jewish and non-Jewish people all over the world. We are looking at the future, we have the technology, we have the infrastructure, and if we have your support, we will do it. I'd like to offer you, our friend, the Open University in Israel as your home away from home. And whenever you come to Israel, I know you're coming to Israel, each one of you is invited to send me email. You can find my email easily on the small Google and you get it. And we will be happy to host each one of you as our host at Ra'anana or in one of our centers to show you what we are doing with your help in Israel. Thank you all and have a nice evening.
Socrates, considered one of the wisest men ever to have lived, was accused by the city of Athens of corrupting the morals of the young because he told values contrary to those held by the general public. He was tried, found guilty, and sentenced to drink the poison cup of hemlock. As Socrates was awaiting in prison for the appointed day, a friendly jailer left the door unlocked. His students urged him to flee. The reply which Socrates made over 2,000 years ago stirs the most noble values within us. When I was a young man, he said, I studied Anaxagoras' book on physics. He would have me believe that I was sitting in this crouched position on my prison cot because of the tensions in the tendons over the joints in my legs. But what Anaxagoras doesn't seem to know is that I sit here because I will not violate the democratic law of Athens. The people have condemned me to drink the hemlock. As a man of honor, I will not creep easily away like a coward. It was not the impersonal law of physics or nature that determined Socrates should sit in prison. It was the code of honor, to which he chose to commit himself. Tzedek, tzedek tirdof, is the imperative of the book of Deuteronomy. Justice and righteousness must be pursued in order that you may live. Mr. Ambassador, you are a noble example of courage and valor. You exemplify morality and decency in a society that shuts its eyes to justice. In the halls of the United Nations, you alone singularly have the courage to speak the truth to the corrupt minds. You alone were the staunch defender of our democratic ideals and values. You did not fear your internal critics or external enemies. In recognition of your code of honor, on behalf of the American Friends of the Open University, I present you with our 2009 Tzedek Award. Mr. Ambassador.
Thank you very much. It's a really great honor to receive this award, and I can't tell you how much I really appreciate it, especially on behalf of the Open University and the opportunity for the future that holds for so many people. I was struck when Joel Klein mentioned that his father had not graduated from high school, because my father didn't graduate from high school either. And you'd say, how many people are there in this room whose fathers didn't graduate from high school? And the answer is probably quite a few, because it is a typical American story that when you're given the opportunity, people will rise to it. And I think that's central to all of our hopes for education in the United States and Israel and around the world. So as I say, it's particularly a great honor to be recognized by all of you and for your attendance tonight and your support for the Open University in these difficult economic times. It's a very challenging time internationally, both for the United States and for Israel, as we're joined by so many common interests and values. I know that many people think that this is perhaps a more difficult time for Israel than almost at any point in its history. And there's a lot of evidence about the dangers and the challenges that are out there. Just to take one example that we're all too familiar with at the United Nations, here we are on the island of Manhattan, the center of more creativity and talent than almost any other place in the world, where the arts, the theater, the performing arts generally reach such enormous heights. And yet over on First Avenue at UN, it's the same script over and over again. Whether it's the General Assembly that annually passes resolutions condemning Israel by overwhelming majorities, often with only 3 votes against them, Israel, the United States, and our common dear friend Palau, where the Europeans are often out in the tall grass looking through heavy lenses at all this activity and not voting at all. When it's not the General Assembly, we see the UN's human rights bodies with all the abuses of human rights that exist around the world, taking most of their time passing resolutions criticizing this aspect of Israel's policy or another. You know, we went through an enormous effort 3 years ago to eliminate the discredited UN Human Rights Commission and replace it with something new. Part of that creativity, they decided to call it the Human Rights Council. How's that for a change? And in fact, the new Human Rights Council is just as bad or worse than the old Human Rights Commission. That's just not my opinion. It's the opinion shared by the editorial boards of the New York Times and the Washington Post. So you can see there's a pretty broad view of the problems that still remain. And we see, we're going to see within a month, the so-called Durban II conference in Geneva, a conference that should be on the international problem of racism, which has concentrated its effort on criticizing the state of Israel. And implicitly, and this is something I think it's important to understand, being a source of anti-Americanism as well, one of the problems that Israel faces is precisely because it is close to the United States and countries that don't see it necessarily as being a terribly profitable way to proceed by criticizing the United States can get almost as much satisfaction by criticizing Israel because they know of the links between the two countries. And then there's the annual or semi-annual event in the Security Council where somebody criticizes Israel for one action or another in its own self-defense. And the Security Council chamber will fill with delegates and spectators and press people. Normally, a public meeting of the Security Council is about as exciting as a local zoning board meeting. But when it's a chance to consider a resolution critical of Israel, the place is filled. In America, we don't necessarily pay much attention to it on the television screens, but around the world it looks like there's an enormous outpouring of international feeling that's about as spontaneous as the traffic lights on New York City streets. This is part of the game at the UN, and it's one where, you know, frankly, many of our friends in Europe rely on the United States, knowing that at least in most administrations will veto a nakedly anti-Israel resolution because it's simply an inaccurate description of reality. But this repetition of this theater over and over again, I think, gives many people the feeling that Israel is isolated and the isolation is growing. I actually don't think that's the case. I don't think things have changed all that much. I think we're simply seeing the playing out of tendencies in Europe in particular that were almost inevitable, that the guilt, the shame, the horror that many people in Europe felt as a result of learning about the Holocaust and that motivated their policy for many years has faded. That shouldn't be the case. It's not fair, but that's life. Just as feelings in Europe about gratitude to the United States for liberating them from the Nazi tyranny have faded as well. And neither guilt nor gratitude are going to come back as motivating factors in European policy for a long time to come. But that doesn't mean that Israel is necessarily more isolated. The circumstances have changed. We're no longer in a Cold War where the threat of nuclear annihilation of all of Western civilization was a very real prospect. The United States is actually, even in the midst of economic turmoil, stronger both absolutely and comparatively than we were during the height of the Cold War. And as long as that remains the case, Israel has all the friendship that it really needs. But there are other opportunities as well, and I think it's important, even in a time of challenge, to see them. Let me just give you one example, an example that should be on all of our minds, because I think it could be the crisis of 2009 or shortly thereafter. And that's how the world deals with Iran's nuclear weapons program. Iran has been pursuing nuclear weapons on a clandestine basis for 20 years. It has now reached the point, I'm sad to report, that it has in its hands all of the knowledge and all of the equipment it needs to build a nuclear weapon. It has complete domestic mastery over the nuclear fuel cycle. The decision when and where to put together a nuclear weapon is a decision entirely in Iran's hands. We've seen just recently they've launched an Earth satellite showing that their ballistic missile program is now capable of essentially reaching any point on Earth. And all they have to do, the next step after creating the weapon itself, is to marry the weapon with the ballistic missile. And that's a difficult process, but one that an educated and sophisticated scientific community like Iran's can achieve without much difficulty. Now, that leaves for the United States and Israel in particular a very profoundly difficult question, and that is whether we have any alternative at this point other than to deal with a nuclear-capable Iran. I've spent much of the last 8 years refusing to admit that we had no other alternative than to accept a nuclear Iran. But in all candor, our options now are very limited, given Iran's progress during the course of what is almost 6 years of failed European diplomacy to try and persuade Iran to give up its nuclear weapons program. I think we're down to two unattractive options. One is regime change in Iran, and I don't mean the use of American military force, I mean supporting dissidents in Iran who really want a different kind of government. I think that regime is more fragile than people think, but I also know that regime change is not something you can turn on and off like a light switch. It takes time, and the time that might be consumed in accomplishing regime change is time that the Iranians will simply use to perfect the last steps of what they need to do to get a nuclear weapon. That leaves the highly risky and unattractive option of the use of targeted military force against Iran's nuclear program, not a decision that any government would ever take lightly. But we can see in Israel's history when it has felt that it was confronted with an existential threat to the state of Israel. And in this case, the threat is, as President Bush used to call it, a nuclear holocaust, that Israel has not waited to be attacked. It destroyed the Osirak reactor outside of Baghdad in 1981, and in September of 2007, it destroyed a North Korean reactor being built on the shores of the Euphrates River in Syria. Now, I could spend a long period of time, as I have in much of the last 8 years, trying to explain why North Korea is a threat to peace in the Middle East. That example of what North Korea was doing with Syria is about as clear a demonstration why North Korea is a global threat, why its cooperation with Iran and other regimes in the region is a continuing threat, and why the threat of nuclear proliferation is something that the entire world has to confront. But we're now going to see within, I think, the next year, the government of Israel, the new government, when it's formed, whatever shape it takes, and I'm not here to talk about that difficult problem, but whatever shape it takes, it's going to face a decision that the United States is not going to make for them, and that is whether to use force against Iran's nuclear program. But the opportunity that exists politically for Israel is something that I think we need to pay more attention to, because I'll tell you, if you talk to the leaders of many Arab states, whatever they would say publicly about Israel or the United States, or whatever they'd say privately, they will welcome a decision to destroy Iran's nuclear program. The foreign ministers of the states of the Gulf Cooperation Council, other states in the region, appreciate that Iran and its nuclear weapons program, and Iran and its support for international terrorism, for Hamas, for Hezbollah, for the Taliban, Iran's position as the central banker of international terrorism, are a threat to them too. So there is a real opportunity, if the United States and Israel take advantage of it, to be in a position where this incredibly difficult decision that confronts us, where the only alternative to taking action is a nuclear-capable Iran that can dominate the Persian Gulf and the Middle East more generally, that can predominate within the Islamic world, carrying through a millennium-long struggle there, and be a major disruptive force in the world as a whole, that can be changed. I think this is going to be as I said, potentially the major foreign policy crisis for the United States and certainly for Israel in the next 12 months. A lot will depend on how our government and the government of Israel handle it. It will be an incredibly difficult decision, as was the decision to bomb the Osirak reactor and to destroy the North Korean reactor in Syria. But the potential for finding friends where you don't expect them in the Arab world who are concerned about the threat that Iran poses to international peace and security in the region and globally is something that we have to be alert to. We won't hear a lot about this publicly. In fact, if Israel carries out its diplomacy successfully, we don't want to hear about it publicly. But this is the kind of opportunity that really leaders looking to the future have to be prepared to take advantage of. And I think this is something that only people with vision and with a certain sense of boldness can carry through on. And I think one way that you come to the level of maturity where you're prepared to make these very hard decisions is because of what you've learned in your formative years, and particularly through the education that you've received. So a lot rides on the next 12 months, but a lot rides on future generations as well, having the opportunity during their education to be exposed to all of the challenges that provide the kind of maturity that will permit them to make these very hard decisions. This is going to be a difficult year ahead, and it's going to be one where if we're not prepared to take the opportunities, we're going to face more challenges down the road. So I just want to thank all of you again, urge you to be paying very careful attention to developments in the next 12 months, and to continue your very generous support for the Open University. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador Bolton. In designing the Tzedek Award that you received tonight, you sought to create an object that is emblematic of your courage and the many other qualities you have brought to bear in your pursuit of justice over these years. In the presentation box are 3 objects: an oil lamp, coins, and a jug. All archaeological finds unearthed from the Judean hill from the outskirts of Jerusalem. The oil lamp has many meanings in our heritage and tradition. At Hanukkah, the oil lamp reminds us of the courageous battle against tyrants and tyranny. Most simply, the oil lamp also symbolizes knowledge, learning, and understanding. You bring superior intellect and a passion for understanding to the causes that you have championed. The coins, widow's mites, represent the charitable offering mentioned in the books of Mark and Luke. In Hebrew, this offering is an act of tzedakah, of righteousness. We are taught that everyone is obliged to give an offering because no one can or should escape responsibility. You have consistently stood up in the Hall of Nations, displaying these qualities of righteousness, justice, and integrity. Finally, the jug is a symbol of libation, of joy and gratitude, our gratitude. Ambassador Bolton, we salute your courage, your vision, and of course your tzedek. Thank you. We'd also like to take just one extra moment and acknowledge the presence tonight of dinner co-chair Malcolm Hohenlein, Executive Vice President of the President's Conference, and Ambassador Dory Gold, a board member as well.
Ladies and gentlemen, you'll be happy to know I'm the last speaker of the evening, and get to close the event. Tonight is a gala evening in support of knowledge and understanding. Our mission at the Open University is vital. Employing the most up-to-date technology, we provide excellence in education to a population diversified in its needs. The reach of the Open University is from our Project Judaica in the former Soviet Union to the finest MBA program in Israel. We invite you to join us in supporting the Open University, and I thank you tonight for attending and supporting this evening, and invite you to join us and our honorees for dessert. Enjoy the evening, and thank you very much.
Hi, this is a big honor for me. I'm with Chancellor Joel Klein. Hi, Chancellor.
It's great to be with you tonight.
It's a big honor because I live in Manhattan in the school system here. My daughter went to the school system here in New York, and the Chancellor's been doing a wonderful job for the schools, and I want to thank you for that.
Well, thank you. It's a privilege. I'm a graduate of the New York City Public Schools, and they really changed my own life. And it's great to see that under Mayor Bloomberg's leadership, we really are turning around the schools. Just last week, we announced that between 2002 and 2008, in that 6-year period, an additional 8,000 New York City public school graduates went to City University. That's a 50% increase in 6 years. It shows when you get serious about education, you can really change it.
There used to be a statistic, I don't know if it's still true, but that the most CEOs in this country were coming out of the City University.
I'm not sure if that's right, but it wouldn't surprise me at all. City University has produced more, not only CEOs, scientists, business leaders, doctors, lawyers. It's really an incredible thing. And Matthew Goldstein, of course, is one of my heroes.
And we've just taped the ceremony here for the Open University of Israel. And thank you very much for allowing us to be here. This is going on Good News Israel, our program, which is produced by Good News Broadcast. And tell us about the organization, since you're overseeing it.
Actually, Mrs. Renard oversees it, and I do whatever she asks to be done.
No, but I'm telling you, I have been with the organization practically since its founding. It was founded in 1974 by Madame Baroness de Rothschild in Israel, and I've been so many years with it. And we have 45,000 students. We are the largest university in Israel. And for people who cannot go, who does not come with a bagrut, we give them a second chance. And for a country which relies on immigrants, I think this is a great, great university.
Why did you get involved initially?
Because a very, very wonderful man, Zvulun Hammer, who was Minister of Education, came to the United States and asked me to get involved. That's how I joined.
And what did he say to you that you felt was that important for your successful family, successful woman? What would give you the oomph to do that?
To give people who really have no other chance to get a second chance, because they don't have a high school diploma. They come from countries like Yemen, from Iraq, you name it where they come, from the Maghreb, from everywhere. And with no diploma, you cannot go to a university. Here we give them a second chance to get an excellent education.
Is it similar, would you say, to the community, like community colleges, say, here in New York?
It is, and it's different, because you've got to understand, this is the most advanced technological university in the world. It's all internet, which means a soldier literally taking relief on the battlefront can read a few pages. Someone in the bottom of the Negev or in Eilat can study a course. It's at your own time. A woman who's shut in, taking care of 3 children, that is Mrs. Renard referred to, never had an education, can go on and become a fine mind. Not only that, our MBA program is considered the finest in Israel and the finest in the Middle East, and we're exporting that product to China.
Well, let me see if I understand this then. I think you said the word internet. Did I hear that?
Yes.
That's
correctly?
correct.
Absolutely.
Okay, and we are on the internet, and the world is on the internet. But it hasn't been on the internet because you've been involved for many years, right? Was it always internet-based?
Well, no. Remember,
it didn't exist in 1974.
It was correspondence in those days.
Correspondence. Or somebody that might have been interesting to go to a correspondence.
You mimeographed. If people remember what a mimeograph machine is, or you Xerox and you sent out to text. Now we're able to do individually proctored exams on the internet. We have 70 study centers located throughout Israel. Anybody can take a course, which means somebody comes out of the army, they're age 22, they may have a child, they're married, they need a job, they've got to support a family. The generosity of the Renard family in building a campus enables one of the strongest centers, and then we have this marvelous technology. And you want to plug in at 2 in the morning? You want to take 3 months to complete a course? Last night at dinner, we met someone who took 3 years. Very rapid. And when you hear who the graduates are, these are now some of the leaders in Israel. That's what we're proud of.
Okay, well, mazel tov, I will say.
Thank you.
In this case. So thank you very much.
תודה רבה.
Okay, thank you.
לילה טוב.
Good night and enjoy dessert.
Thank you. Hi, I'm now with the president of the Open University, and I'm going to look at to make sure. Professor Hagat Meser Yaron.
You could do better.
So how better could I do?
It's Hagit Meser Yaron.
What does Hagit mean?
Hagit is Chag. Chag is a holiday. So Hagit is it comes from a Chag. If you were born in a holiday, then you are called Hagit.
But is that right?
No, it's a biblical name. It's from the Bible.
Oh, beautiful.
She was one of the wife of David, I think, Hagit.
All right, beautiful. And David had a few psalms, I think.
Yes.
Talking about psalms is sort of like a lead into talking about school, because David wrote a lot of poetry and a lot of brilliance, and universities usually are able to help people with growing their minds and their brains. Tell us about the university.
The Open University is special in the sense that it is open technically. It's open, there are no requirements for admission. It's open to anyone who wants to try higher education. Success is not guaranteed. You need to work hard to pass the exams, but at least you can try. And it's open also because the way of thinking is to share everything, to share culture, to share knowledge. For example, last May, we opened books, our books, in the internet, so everyone can share it for free. And this is very valuable. It's best Hebrew books, textbooks, which are free for everyone because we believe in openness.
Free books in college is a good thing.
Yeah.
You don't have to go to the used bookstore and get them with lines under them and everything, right?
You know, it's amazing because we also have very advanced technology. So you can have the book online and you can mark what you want and you can cut pages and you can have your textbooks extracted out of that book technologically.
Now, can you actually directly go into someone's brain with this information?
No, not yet. We're working on it.
You have a lot of Nobel Prize winners in science in Israel.
Yes, not too many. It started late, only in the third millennium. Right now I think we have 4, but we are getting there, I hope.
I've interviewed some of them over the years, yes. Now I have to remember their name.
There is Chehanover and Hershko. The only 2 that got Nobel Prize in science. And we have Uman and Kahneman. That's it, I think.
The last one.
Okay, the last one.
In Grand Canary Islands. It was more about health and environment.
No,
he was there.
Okay, maybe.
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
So did he go, do you think? You probably have had a lot of nice, wonderful, successful people coming out of the university.
Actually, I have some scoop for you.
All right, a scoop.
Yeah. You know that yesterday they got a new CEO for Bank Hapoalim, for Hapoalim Bank. Tzvi Ziv resigned, and now they have a new one, Zion Kainan.
Okay.
Zion Kainan was, he grew up in a ma'abara. You know what ma'abara is?
No.
It's like a refugee camp when people came to Israel right after the state of Israel established, and there were no houses, so they live in tents, especially people that came from Arabic countries. He grew up there. He didn't get proper education. He started to work in agriculture, and then he got allergies. So the doctor told him to work in the bank. So he started to work in the bank, and he got his education through the Open University while working in the bank. And now he's the CEO of Bank Hapoalim, fresh from yesterday. We are very proud of him.
Congratulations.
And this is an example how using the Open University you can get from, working in agriculture to be the CEO of the largest bank in Israel.
Well, congratulations to you and to the university. And good news, Israel, that we're producing is open for your comments and thoughts at a later moment, however we can help.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good night.